Over the last 2 years, my husband and I have been DIYing our house top to bottom. In this video, I'm going back to my first room makeover and undoing all of that work. I originally painted these nightstands a bright white color to lighten up our bedroom, but I'm itching for a change. Today's project is going to include stripping off all that paint, bleaching the wood left behind, and refinishing these nightstands for a fresh look.
Hey darling, can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town. See the beautiful.
Okay, out in the garage is where we are doing this project. I've got good ventilation, all of my tools, a space where I can leave all of the nightstand parts spread out over a couple days while I do this process. And the first step in this process is removing all of the paint that's on these nightstands. I love the white paint, I love the chalk paint look, but I want to just mix it up a little bit, and so I'm going to be using citrus strip to remove all of that. This is supposed to be like a less toxic, no harsh fumes paint stripper, so I found it on Amazon. I will link all my products down below, and I will also link a video that I watched on tips for using citrus strip that was super helpful. But the most important thing to remember when using this is it works when it's wet. So I applied it very liberally. I put a lot of it on, I globbed it on, I was very generous with it. And then once I finished covering a certain section of a piece, I took saran wrap and covered that up. That way the moisture stays within it, it stays activated, it keeps working better. And you can leave it on for as little as 30 minutes. I left it on overnight simply out of convenience. I had time to coat all of these pieces last night. I didn't have time to scrape them. That's what I'm gonna be doing right now. So all of these pieces are covered. I've already done one drawer completely, so a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to end up with, but I did one drawer just to do a tester. You want to make sure that this like wood that you're going to be working with is actually good quality wood you want to be viewing. But I knew that these nightstands were real wood, and you can see what the citrus strip looks like once it's worked. Like I said, it's been sitting overnight, so it's really had time to soak in and sink in. The drawers look way better than the nightstands do. I'm a little bit nervous. The nightstands did not have enough of a thick coating on it, but we'll see when we start scraping it off. You can see over here it's bubbled up. But I'm gonna start peeling off all of the layers of saran wrap and then getting to scraping this off. For my scraping tool, I just have this little metal tool to scrape it off. You wanna be careful not to gouge the wood with this tool. And I'm also just using a leftover egg crate just to wipe all of my sludge into.
Pack our bags and get in that car. Leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city. Let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty, with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday. Baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand. Hey darling, I love it when it's me and you, on the road with a couple of tunes in a car for two. Hey darling, you know we're gonna have a really good time, driving in the middle of the night when the stars are bright.
I definitely have a few spots that need to be covered again with the citrus strip, and I hope I have enough. I've got like maybe a quarter of this little container left. So I think I'm gonna do that again. I'm also hoping it'll lift up a little bit of the stain or varnish or whatever is covering. You can see there are some lighter splotches where the citrus strip did a good job like permeating that deep to lift that up. So hopefully a second coat will cover this.
Leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city. Let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty, with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday. Baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand.
I am not a perfect DIYer, nor do I ever claim to be, and I've already made a mistake. I totally missed this side of the nightstand for the second pass of the citrus strip. I did a second coat on everything else and got almost all of it up, and everything left behind I think I'll be able to sand away or clean up with what we're going to use next. So I think on this side I'm going to have to use an orbital sander to get the bulk of that off, but I'll show that process a little bit later. Now citrus strip is like a waxy based finish. It's how it holds that moisture for a long time, letting it like penetrate deeply and like work really well, but it does leave behind a residue. And I know what I'm going to be finishing my piece with. I know I'm going to be using a water-based polyurethane, and a water-based top coat does not mix well with mineral spirits or mineral oil, which is typically what you use to clean up this kind of stripping agent. So I'm going to use something a little bit different, and I like that it's something that I already have on hand. I'm going to be using nail polish remover. An acetone mixture is basically all you need. I don't think this is pure acetone. It's probably like 50-50 or 60-40 or something to water, but it's going to be exactly what I need for this project. It'll clean up all of the gunk left behind. It'll also pick up some of the leftover little bits of paint. And so I'm going to use some shop cloths, some paper towels, wipe down all of the wood with this solution, and then I'm going to let it completely dry.
Let's get out, we can leave this city. Let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty, with the wind blowing in your...
We were a little bit sidetracked. I ran out of acetone. I accidentally spilled part of it on the floor. Fantastic. But thanks to Walmart grocery pickup, we have a new bottle and I'm ready to get back to work. So far, here are the 3 pieces or the 4 pieces that I have gone over with the acetone. It's lightening up a lot. And one thing I have discovered is I'm not quite sure if this piece on the top and the bottom are actually solid wood, or if it's just the facing, like the face frame or whatever that's called, that's solid wood. This could be veneer. Like the way that this strip is laying does not look like the edge of solid wood. It looks like a veneer placed on something else. So I'm thinking I need to be a little bit careful if I'm going to be sanding this, because I don't want to sand through the veneer. So that's going to change our plans a little bit, but it's really coming along. Another area I need to troubleshoot is this groove. I need to figure out how to pull out the paint left behind in there. But the only good thing about this project is that once I bleach it, the white probably can blend in a little bit, so it's not like a huge deal if it's left behind, but like over here, like that's a little bit of a stark contrast that I want to clean up. So these 3 pieces are ready to be sanded and then bleached, and this guy needs a lot of attention. I haven't finished doing the nail polish remover to clean up all of the citrus strip. You can see it's kind of a hot mess on this side, so that has a lot of work to be done. And then I also need to do a lot of cleaning. But with Madeline down for a little nap right now, I'm going to use the few minutes that I have to work on this project and get a little bit closer to the finish line.
From my window, sun's coming up like the...
I'm now fairly certain at least parts of these nightstands are just wood veneer. So I need to be very careful while I do this part next, but I think the easiest way to get where I'm going is going to be pulling out the sander and getting to work. I think I'm going to use a gentle grit. Normally I would use a really low grit, a really rough one, to try to take off as much of the staining and coloring as possible, get it as smooth and clean, but I don't want to damage the wood. I don't want to go too far down, so I'm going to start with a medium-ish grit, 120 something, 140, 180. Yeah, 180 looks about right. I think I'm gonna start with about 180 grit sandpaper using an orbital sander. I'm gonna open the garage door to get some more ventilation and to hopefully not fill my husband's garage with dust, and get working on these guys.
Like a stone on my pillow. I don't make a sound when I shut the door. You don't have to wake up yet. We can spend all day in bed. I'll put the TV in the room. We'll have a Netflix marathon.
I'm a little bit out of breath. I am very sweaty. Madeline's nap has been killer, but now that I've said that, I'm sure she's about to wake up. But I have done so much work. I took a wood chisel and carefully kind of carved into those grooves and those edges to lift out as much paint as possible. It's not perfect. If you look really closely, you definitely can tell there was paint there before, but that's okay with me. I think it's a small enough detail that I don't want to spend the time to perfectly clean that. So I did that. I also went over all of the pieces, including the drawers, with just a sanding block with the sandpaper wrapped around it. I went with about a 120, 140 grit over all the pieces. That way it's rough enough to absorb the next step that we're about to do. Once I sanded it, I also grabbed a microfiber cloth, very, very barely damp, wiped up all of the dust, or as much as I possibly could, and I think we are finally ready for the next step. I'm pretty sure this is the most labor-intensive part of the process, is getting them down as bare as possible. And now you can see there's still a slight difference in wood tone between this tester drawer that I did. I have gone through a whole process with this that I'm now going to repeat on the rest of these pieces, and that involves bleach. In this spray bottle, it is not heavy-duty wheel cleaner. I mixed equal parts bleach and water, and just household bleach, bought it at Target a couple days ago, and then did a bunch of coats of it on this. I'm not an expert by any means. I just did a bunch of Googling, a bunch of random things, and also have the experience of doing it to one of my drawers already. But you want to get a nice even spray over the entire drawer or whatever piece you're doing. So I'm going to do a even coat, soak it through. You don't want it like sopping wet. You don't want it puddling and pooling and dripping, but you want it fully coated so it's activating and affecting all of the wood it's touching. And then you're going to repeat that process. You'll spray the bleach covering the entire piece, let it 100% dry. You want it bone dry, and repeat the process over and over. On the drawer that I did about 4 to 5 coats. So I'm gonna see how many coats it takes to get the rest of this furniture similar to that color, and then we'll be done treating this wood. We're gonna seal it next, but the bleaching process is all I'm gonna do. There's gonna be no staining this wood, no painting, at least for now, and we'll see how all of this turns out. I am a little bit nervous because the sides of the nightstands got pretty beat up from the sanding. It's not really even, but also you don't really see the sides of the nightstands that much. The tops of them look good, the drawer faces look good, the front of the nightstands look good. So I'm going to continue on with this process, and then honestly, if it turns out awful, I can just paint it again. Really no harm, no foul in this project and experimenting with this.
I'll put your favorite music on all the way baritone. Yeah. Shut the lights, go infrared. We can spend all day in bed. I get the wine and the corkscrew. You don't have to do one single.
It is bright and early on another day of this project. Last night I applied the either 4th or 5th layer of the bleach mixture, let the fan go overnight, and they're pretty dry. And now we're moving on to the next step in the process, which is neutralizing all of this bleach. You don't want it sitting on there, and before you mix other chemicals on top of it, you want to make sure that it's not still active and still working on the products. So to neutralize the bleach, I have equal parts vinegar and water, and I'm just going to take a rag and rinse off, well not rinse off, but like wipe down all of the furniture that we've covered so far. And then we need to wait for the vinegar water solution to completely dry once again.
You don't know how much I want you. Just looking at you makes my whole world spin. You don't have to wake up yet. We can spend all day in bed. I'll put the TV in the room. We'll have a Netflix marathon. Kenny G saxophone. We'll order in a bunch of food.
A full day has passed, maybe even 2, and it's time to move on to sanding and sealing these bad boys. Now the finish on them are not perfectly even, so I'm gonna do what I can to even that out with the orbital sander on the large parts of the nightstands, and then by hand with a sanding block and different grits on the drawers, and hopefully it looks a little bit more polished and also smooths it out. You can definitely feel if you do this at home that the wood is rougher and a bit more textured. Like I mentioned earlier, it has raised the grain because you've been saturating it so much. So we're gonna remedy that, even it out, maybe work on getting a few more little spots of the leftover paint off, and then getting it ready to be sealed and finished.
Music on all the way baritone. Shut the lights, go infrared. We can spend all day in bed.
The sanding is done. I'm not quite sure how much darker this wood is going to get once I seal it, but I'm assuming it'll get a little bit darker, but I want to wipe these down, get all of the dust off of it. That way, when we put our top coat on, we're not locking in any dust or debris. have finally made it to today. We are sealing these, we are finishing these guys, and I'm going to be doing 2 coats of General Finishes water-based polyurethane. It sounds way more intimidating than it actually is. If you ever paint your nails or have your nails done, it is like putting top coat on your nail polish. It protects it, and especially since I'm not doing anything to this wood, it's not paint, it's not stained, the wood is really susceptible to just absorbing any liquids or moisture that gets on them, so you want to make sure you seal them well so they don't end up getting rings and ruined. So I'm going to be doing 2 coats of this, like I said. I have worked before with these large paint pads. We actually finished our entire dining room table using a paint pad with this same finish, and it works so easily. But because I'm going to be getting into all of the drawers and nooks and crannies and uneven spaces, I'm going to just go in with my favorite little cheap inexpensive angled paintbrush. It works just as well. I'm going to make sure I stir my polyurethane. I don't shake it up. Pour it into a disposable coffee cup and then paint away. I painted 1 layer and then I let that dry for an hour, and I went back and painted the 2nd layer. There's nothing super special to doing these top coats. Like I said, if you have a large flat surface, you can use a paint pad to make it go by a lot faster and smoother. And the only thing I'm focusing on in between each coat is making sure there are no real bubbles. Sometimes the polyurethane will bubble or have tiny little pockets of air dotted throughout it that will dry and harden and be left on your finish, and you don't want to have that. So if you just go over it smoothly, slowly, steadily, it'll have a beautiful finish. Normally once you paint it on, you have about 60 seconds to work with the product to get it smooth and flat and covered. So don't panic, don't freak out. I know I did the first time I ever finished a wood piece. You have a little wiggle room to make it done right. So I'm going to cover all of these pieces and then finally let that dry and move them upstairs to style them.
Netflix marathon, Kenny G saxophone. We'll order in a bunch of food. I'll put your favorite music on all the way baritone. Shut the lights, go infrared. We can spend all day in bed.
Okay, it has been a few hours since I painted that 2nd coat. Honestly, I could probably use a 3rd coat on the top just as an extra layer of protection, but I am tired of this project taking so long and I want to be done with these, so I'm going to stick with just 2 coats. I think it should be good enough, and I'm really happy with how the finish turned out. Applying the polyurethane made it a little bit darker, as to be expected. Any like liquids or top coats or whatever will darken your piece a little bit, but I still am overall happy with the finish. It's still a much lighter wood than was underneath it, and it's not the true bleached wood finish that you'll find online. You're only gonna get that bleached wood look truly like a whitewash wood, either by painting it white and whitewashing it, or if you're already working with like a maple or an oak that's that light color to begin with. I'm not quite sure what type of wood this is. It honestly could just be pine. I'm not even sure it's a hardwood, but it's definitely darker in tone, and I just can't push it that much lighter than it already is. So I'm happy with this. It's definitely gonna be pretty upstairs, and I'm ready to haul these bad boys back into place.
I bet you think that I should calm down, and that I'm overthinking everything about you, and that we're good the way we are. But I don't know that much about you, what things you like and what you don't. It's not that long since I met you for the first time. You know we should work it out. You know we should work it out. Before I'm too invested, I should probably ask you all my questions, get to know you better. Like, can you be trusted? Will you take me for granted? And will you let me down? I know I'm feeling something for you. The way you look, the way you laugh, and how you move. It kinda makes me
A little bit sweaty from moving all of that furniture around and sanding the daylights out of these nightstands, but I am so pleased with the outcome. I will link a video here where I shared the process of painting them white. If you want to check out that process, if you'd like that look better, let me know down below if you prefer the white nightstands or if you like this new light wood look. I think it definitely makes this space look a little more aged, rustic, adds a little more character to this space, which I definitely want to keep on continuing. I'm playing with the idea of doing another little mini room makeover series in here, styling the nightstands, changing up maybe this circle mirror. It's a little bit modern and I kind of like more of the character to be added into this space to match these nightstands. Maybe a big mirror going over here. I don't know. Let me know if you like this video. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.